You wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with wet cement.
Yeah. I remember that well.
Yeah.
Teenage Symphony was, I was playing around up in my music room and I had found this cassette of old songs that I'd written. And I try every now and then to, digitize stuff like that, so I have a digital record of it. And so I was playing these different songs, and I had a song on there that I wrote for John Lennon years ago, way back, and I was still a Christian and all that. And I was thinking about the fact how our lives had gone different paths, and the lyrics when I was raised in the days when the music was young, which is the same lyric from Teenage Symphony. And you and I were the same. We all were kids, and we had a new way of expression. This music we found, and I was trying to liken our experiences and how we had gone off in different directions, but, was sort of pleading to him to maybe take another look at things, Of course, he was still alive at the time. But I didn't like the music of it. It was real slow, and it was kind of melodic ballad. I was raised in the days when the down, like that. So I played around with it a little bit, and it started to come up with this idea for Teenage Symphony, and then I really thought of you guys. I thought of the Castells, and I thought, first of all, I felt the song was inspired. I write Christian music, and I like to believe that my songs are inspired. And I felt like the lyric came really from God, and I was writing these lyrics about these songs that we've grew up on, that were the DNA of our lives, the soundtrack of our lives. And then I really didn't like the idea of Teenage Symphony, so I had it in mind to kind of blow that off later on, but just use it as a kind of a dummy title till I could figure out something better. So these lyrics came, the song changed a little bit from the original version. I upped the tempo a little bit, and then I thought, why couldn't we, get the guys together if we're going to have this reunion, because we were already planning it. Do the song. And, if we can all still sing, we can get some background vocals on there, then make a viable record 45, 50 years later after the group disbanded with all really surviving original members, even though many weren't on the recording, several weren't. Two of the main recording guys, as I watched Joe's interview, was giving homage to Bob and Tom, who were a great part of the beginnings of the group and a great part of our sound. But to be able to have the remaining original members, which still give us the Cassie sound, do the song, and it's kind of a delight to be able to do that and to be able to accomplish the recording of a brand new song by a bunch of old dudes that might actually get on iTunes, and somebody might be interested enough. I know one person who will buy it, Sylvia from Liverpool, so we'll have at least one sale for our songs, Teenage Symphony. Since we saw each other has been probably, for some, now for me, I'd seen Greg fairly recently because we touched base when, a few years back and off and on. I think for about the last 10, 15 years we've been seeing each other off and on, if not longer. Warren I had run into upon occasion over the years because Warren became a pastor in Santa Rosa, and I'd go back there and I'd do a church, and so we'd look Warren up, or at least have a phone call. Joe crashed my service here in Las Vegas about 25 years ago. I'm doing my service in a church, and he had to go, and he wanted to give his phone number to me, so he waited till in between the songs, and he walks up on the stage, and ironically, I was talking about the Castells at the time. I was talking about my old guys, and I said, here's one of them now, like a miracle appearance here. And Joe walks up, it's kind of embarrassing and awkward, and he says, here's my phone number, and call me tomorrow, and I'll take you to the airport. And then he walks off, and he's gone, so it's sort of like, hey, give a big hand for my old buddy, Then I didn't see Joe for many, many years, and I was looking to touch base with him again, and I went to the White Pages app or website on the internet and put in Joe Kelly. I thought, fat chance, Joe Kelly, Las Vegas, there's probably 400 of them, but there was Joseph Hugh Kelly, and that was the only one with his middle name. So I took a shot and just called him out of the dark. And he answered the phone, and there it was. And so we talked a little bit about how our lives had gone, and we hadn't talked about the reunion at that point, but that was my connection with him. And so I've seen everybody in recent years, but to get everybody, here's the way I put it, to get everybody in the same room breathing the same air, it's probably been 50 years. So it's been an exciting time to be together here and be all in the same space.
What was it like the night you met him? Like,
even pre-meeting, how were those feelings? How were those emotions the other night?
I was actually a little apprehensive coming here. I was thinking, I hope this works, and I hope that, well, a lot of it was logistics, because we didn't know where we kind of knew where we were going to stay, but a lot of it was up in the air, the planning. Plus, I was kind of a little bit feeling like, is this the right time to push the recording thing? Haven't seen each other forever. Maybe we shouldn't do that this time. So I had all these kind of concerns. They weren't fears or anything. They were concerns that I didn't want to get in the way of the connection and the fellowship and the reunion part of it by making it something that became laborious. So then when we connected at the hotel, and it was just a sweet moment, to see these guys. I was listening to Greg's interview, and I very much resonated, in fact, almost to the point of becoming verklempt. And I thought of the lyric in the song, and teardrops well up in our eyes. And there's been a lot of those moments for me, because again, these guys are very special in my life. They were my DNA guys. They were the guys that we went through puberty together and found girls together and got drunk together and all the stuff what crazy kids do. This was my crew, man. And so to see each other again after 50 plus years and be in the same room is an awesome, awesome thing. But a little daunting, but now very comfortable as we're into it. Santa Rosa Junior High first, if I'm not mistaken. We kind of started to get together there. Then we all went to high school, and we all had choir. And we all became infatuated with this doo-wop kind of beginning, budding rock pop music that we love so much. And so we thought we could do that. And we'd get into the practice room to practice our parts for Mr. Barkley's songs that he was giving us for choir, and we'd sing doo-wop instead and practice our doo-wop parts, because we did have some opportunities to do shows and some opportunities to play. Just beginning to get started. And I think the original group was Jeff Bush, Warren, Joe, Bob, and myself.
No, Tom.
Tom. Not Bob.
And Bob.
And Bob. Tom and Bob, Jeff Bush. Kelly was later. Okay, so
Yeah,
it was
so Warren.
Tom, Warren, starting over. Warren, Tom, Bob, myself, and Jeff Bush. Right, and Jeff Bush played piano, and then we had the three singers and the lead vocalist. And then we did these talent shows. The one that the guys left out, that was one of the moments for me, was Santa and Johnny. We got in the show with Santa and Johnny that had Sleepwalk, a big #1 record, and Dan Dillon, who was mentioned in an earlier interview, the DJ from up on the hill in Santa Rosa, K-Jax, had some connections. He said, well, I'll see if I can get you guys on that show. It was at the Veterans Memorial, is all I remember. And we weren't big yet. We hadn't gone to Hollywood or anything.
Oh, yeah, it must have been.
It was the beginning of kind of coming up in the community and becoming known.
that
We
was
had
it.
a rival group called the Staffs, and they were awesome.
Yeah.
They had, I can still tell you their names today. I won't, but I could. And they had this cool Latino Mexican, R&B, that kind of doo-wop singer there that. Memories of Amani kind of thing, those oldies but goodies, that cool voice that was just, and they were our benchmark. Man, we got to be as good as the Staffs, and we got to beat the Staffs. And I think we went and played the Canteen, is where we first called ourselves the Castells. And Jeff Bush came up with the name. This may be a random memory. I don't know if you guys
never
remember
named it
this.
that
We
time.
didn't have a name. When they said, we didn't think about it. So we get up to start the thing and get signed up, and the lady says, what's your name? And he says, and Jeff says, well, I know a group called the Castells. I played with them, or I heard them once, and they're disbanded. We could use their name, and then we could drop it later. Well, we used their name for the contest, and then I don't know if it was a contest. It was the Canteen.
Just playing a gig.
But we were not good, as I remember that night. And I was completely scared, and it was one of those situations where you get off, for me, I got off the stage thinking, I don't know if I want to do this or not. But those were all sort of the seminal beginning experiences. Then when it came time, we got so far as to be able to be offered a record contract. And I think Warren already shared in his interview, so I won't go into it in any more depth. But Warren's parents were not into him moving to Hollywood. So then Warren had to leave the group, and that's when did Joe take your place?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Joe took his place, and then we had the basic group in place. And then I forget, we did all the recording with the guys I mentioned earlier, Bob and Tom and myself and Joe. And then why, I forget why Bob left the group.
I thought he wanted to join the army, but some people have refuted that statement.
I'm not sure, but he joined
He
the
left.
Blackwells.
And it was,
We had these friends in Cloverdale that became famous later on. They had a group called the Blackwells, and they were a trio, two brothers and a sister. And the one brother became famous, somewhat famous, by writing a famous song called Little Red Riding Hood by Sam the Sham, Ron Blackwell. But then he ran his car into a cement overpass and killed himself, and so he was out of the picture. And the other brother, Dwayne, wrote Mr. Blue, primarily, the first big hit for him. They had gone up to do a show with the Fleetwoods, and they were showing songs, and the Fleetwoods loved their song, had said, can we do it? And the Fleetwoods recorded it and got a #1. Well, Dwayne got the royalties, but the Blackwells didn't get the fame, so they sort of dissolved, I guess, after a while. But we had a friendship with them, and then when we went to make our first demo in San Francisco, Dwayne came along and played guitar for us. We added a little guitar to our piano track, and then we went down to Hollywood and got our contract, and Bob left the group. Then Greg came in, and that was the last iteration of the group. We quickly were out of the era thing, and we went
to Warner Brothers.
Was it Warner Brothers first before Decca?
Yeah, and Decca.
We went to Warner Brothers, and got a very famous label president named Joe Smith signed us.
Yeah.
Who was head of Warner Brothers, and Brian Wilson produced a song by our group, and so we had some success there, but in that regard, but nothing hit the charts. And then Gary Usher got a hold of us later, and we did a few sides for Decca, didn't do anything either, and that was sort of the demise of the group. Everybody kind of went their own ways after that, and I forget whether the hippie thing came in or what at that point, but that was sort of the end of the Castells. But because of the love, that we've had, and the things we've been through. See, we were Chuck and Joe. We started after Castells. We went off and we were a duo. We were Chuck and Joe and the Trippers for a while. I think we had a band or something. Then we dropped the band, and we were eventually Chuck and Joe. And so we did a lot of traveling. We did records in the sort of Righteous Brothers duo thing that we did. So I had even a longer connection in history with Joe than other guys in the group. So there's a great affinity for Joe, as I heard Greg saying earlier, that he's got this Irish humor, kind of corny jokes, that he's just part of my tonic is hearing these old jokes again from the mouth of my old friend. What happened to my pen? Wasn't my turn to watch it. We've heard that for years, so that's wonderful to hear that stuff. Those old corny jokes. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Coming here, he got a little crotchety on the phone. Well, I don't know if we want to do the recording. It's going to get in the way of I just want to have a good time with my old friends. And so all that to say that I'm really excited that he's enjoying it so much. I believe it is a tonic for him. He says he hasn't been on a microphone recording in 40 years. Yeah. Really, my dream for this song is being fulfilled, because I wanted to see it be a new song by the old dudes that has viability, not just, something that people will go, wow, that's pretty cool, man. 50 years ago, you guys were, that kind of thing. So I think we're accomplishing that. My answer for how I relate to myself when I look in the mirror, and I feel 18. I don't even feel 25. Some people say, I still feel like a young person, like I'm 30 or something. I feel 18. That same kid I was when I was 18 that loved doo-wop. And, I've been through a lot of life, and I've become a Christian, somewhat of a celebrity Christian, a Christian artist, a first Christian rock band in the U.S. that became famous, and having my own solo albums. But I still feel like that guy that wants to sing, in the still of the night. That's who I am. That's my identity. And no matter where I go musically, or how complicated I do a warrior or whatever, it all comes back to the music we're doing here. The music we're in the car, we're goofing around, and we're listening to coasters and, run, red, run when you got your gun. That's our music. It's true. Those songs are triggers of moments in our lives. I remember the greatest vacation my family ever had when we got to go to Hawaii. It was kind of a ministry vacation. I had to do services to help support some of the bills and stuff, but we had a great time. We started out in Oahu, and then we had a couple of nights there in a condo, not in a condo, but in a kind of a Waikiki experience. Then we went to Maui, and we had the condo on the beach, and then we wound up in Kona, because the main event was this worship thing at YWAM. You know what YWAM is in Kona. And I remember 2 songs that were on the radio that became iconic in my family, and that's The Glory of Love by Peter Cetera was on the radio. And we play that thing in the rented car as loud as we could get it, and then Taken In by Mike and the Mechanics. Taken in, taken in again. So those songs, when I hear them, remind me of Hawaii. And one of the great pleasures of my life as a person both having a secular and a Christian career, because I've had comments and feedback from both sides of that audience, is the value of that music to people. When you're making music, I remember a season in my Christian music. I'm in the studio with the most famous musicians in the world. The second second iteration of the Wrecking Crew, not the original. We all worked with the Hal Blaines and but these were the Jeff Porcaros and the more recent guys, Marty Page, David Page, and people like that from Toto in the studio in my session making my music. And I remember thinking, man, this feels guilty. I'm having so much fun. I'm supposed to be suffering for Jesus or something. People are on the mission field and they're getting killed we didn't have Al Qaeda in those days or ISIS, but there were incidents of missionaries being killed by natives because they didn't understand what was going on, and they'd shoot them because they didn't, superstitious. And I know people were dying for their faith. And I'm thinking, here I am having more fun than a kid should have in the studio with the greatest musicians in the world, feeling guilty about it. And if I ever heard the Lord, he said, well, I got lots of people that can go to Africa, but I only got one guy can make a Chuck Girard record. Well, I never thought of the value of my music that way. I thought, this is fun, and I hope that somebody gets blessed. And same thing with Castell's music or anything. You make music to please other people and that they'll enjoy it and have an impact, an emotional impact. When you get that feedback, it so values the music more than, at least for myself, I ever could. Yeah. People say, oh, they'll come up to me and say, your music got me through. It's awesome to hear that, but I almost can't process it. Yeah. So to me, it's a wonderful treasure to have the feedback that people give because something you did impacted their life, changed their life. Yeah. My Christian music, I have a worship album. People have told me that they've had people that was the soundtrack for their homegoing. They're playing my music and they go to be with Jesus, And then other people have said they were playing my music and the person was going to be with Jesus and got healed by listening to a certain song, whatever. That's valuable, I was used to jokingly say, eat your heart out, Michael Jackson. Because the value of Christian music, coupled with how God uses it in the hearts of people to touch their hearts in a permanent way. I know I've been rambling on, but I'll tell you this one difference, when I became a Christian about my music. I was always, as a songwriter, Greg and I wrote a bunch of some more frivolous songs, but even our frivolous songs had our life in them, I'm in love with your little sister, fictitious. There wasn't anybody that really...
Never happened.
Not for me. But we take things that we thought other people would go through, and we had songs about. But when it came to writing my own, before pre-Christian music, I was always writing about the questions of life. I wasn't making up scenarios. I was thinking, this is what's bugging me. I'll put this in a song. Then when I became a Christian, I realized now I don't have to just sing about the questions. I have the answers. Mm-hmm. And I saw that my music now had eternal value. Now what more could you ask for than know that even if one thing happened, if one person really became converted, which has happened through one of my songs, or got healed through one of my songs, that's the greatest reward I could even imagine. So it's going to be interesting to get to heaven, which I fully believe in. It's going to be completely different from what I think most people think it's like. It's not the little angel sitting on the cloud playing the harp for eternity. It's going to be a very exciting place, and I'm really looking forward to this extension of what I believe heaven is a reflection. Earth is a reflection of what heaven is, and I believe that everything that happens on earth in an imperfect way will be completed in heaven in a perfect way. So I believe there'll be an economy, because the Bible says, I'm preaching now, the Bible says that, for instance, in the reward, greater will your punishment, in the area of punishment, O Tyre and Sidon, than even Sodom and Gomorrah. So there's degrees of punishment or penalty. There must be degrees of reward. So that's an economy. We won't have necessarily heaven dollars, but Paul, maybe the apostle, will have a beautiful mansion, and maybe I'll get a little cabin down by the stream, but I'll know that he deserves that, and I'll be happy for him, and I'll be happy with my cabin. And it's going to be exciting. So I'm excited to see how God is going to evaluate our works in that way. And it's hard for me to think about my music as being something that is going to be judged. You know, where I prayed with somebody to come to Jesus, that's a different thing. And making records and having that all out there, it's going to be interesting to see how God views that. I think it's going to be a good thing, but I'm still not. I'll wait till I get there and find out. So this has been an awesome time, one of the best few days of my life. And, you know, Lord willing, I hope we can do it again sometime, and I hope we can really get a great record out of this time together and have something, and shooting this little documentary, something for our grandkids to see how our lives went and reflect on our lives and give them a little bit more of a perspective on who we were as kids, because your kids see you